Well, thank you for each family that's represented in this room, and as we move forth with the affairs of this state, we ask your guidance and your inclusion of wisdom and courage as far as our ability to carry forth what's in the best interest of the people of the state of Georgia. Be with those whose needs are known and unspoken, and we ask this in the name of your Son. Amen. Well, welcome to, I'll assure you, be the last committee meeting of motor vehicles, and thank you for coming. Let me just kind of give you the parameters of where we are. You have before you basically two forms of substitute for Senate Bill 446. LC 39-1950S does not contain language pertaining to the definitive definition of trailers, but LC 39-1951 TS does have trailers listed and or trailers included in a definition of that. And with that being said, Senator Harper, we're going to let you present this bill to us, and after which we'll see if any committee members have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your work with me and others, members of your committee and staff. I think we've been through many iterations of the underlying bill to get to where we are, but we know that there were some concerns with some of the other language, but we'll work through that on a new day. But I think it's important to address some of the a couple of the concerns, and I'm going to talk through those here in just a second to help make sure that it's clear in regards to what legislative intent is, and also to make it more a streamlined process and clarify some issues that our towing companies face across our state. So with that said, since you do have two subs, I'm going to speak to LC 39-1951 TS, and the reason I'll just speak to this one is because this sub has everything that I think it's 1950S has in it, with just the one difference of the trailer. So I'm going to speak to this one. So in Section 1, obviously Section 1 is the definition provision in regards to the code. The biggest two changes really is in regards to adding a definition of an authorized entity, and I'll discuss that in a minute, and also clarifying what a motor vehicle is, and then adding a definition of trailer. The reason for adding the definition of trailer is we have found in some of our magistrate courts across the state, they do not believe that our code is clear enough in regards to a trailer being abandoned on a towing company's lot, and they have faced that in a couple of different instances, and I think it's important for us as the legislature to make sure we do clarify what legislative intent was, and I believe it's the legislator's intent that it was included from the beginning. I think you put lawyers on either side of it. I think it could be argued one way or the other. So the whole purpose of adding a new definition of trailer under this code section is to make sure that it is clear that this is clearly what it means, and hopefully it clears it up for our magistrate courts across our state. So that's the purpose of that. Section 2 is, and really Section 2 and part of Section 3 is where it adds in the authorized entity language. What that is there are third-party companies that have some of this information that our towing companies can receive this information from, and it will allow them to work with those entities to be able to get that information and without having to go directly through other state agencies. So it would just help streamline and clarify that process. And the last thing that this does is it ups the derelict value from $300 to $600 of what a derelict value of a vehicle would be considered. And Mr. Chairman, that is the substitute to Senate bill, sorry, 446.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Any committee members have a question? I just, let me point out before we have a motion on it, the 391950S not containing language in defining a trailer. In talking with council, there was just a feeling that the definition in 40-1-1 code was probably the sufficient definition in dealing with trailers. Senator Harper's inclusion of the term trailer is just trying to, I don't say broaden it, but giving clarity to that definition. So I think this time we have a Representative McLean has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, Senator Harper, I guess I was looking at line 14, you scratched trailer, and then you added the definition of trailer. So
Yes.
on line 43.
Yes. So if you'll look at lines 38 and 39, you will see where motor vehicle or vehicle means a trailer. So it was taken out of the abandoned motor vehicle definition because it's already included in the definition of what a motor vehicle or vehicle is. And if you were to go through the entire towing code, you'll see where motor vehicle and vehicle is used. And then it adds in the definition of trailer in lines 43 and 44 to define trailer in line 39.
So I was just trying to figure out why you
That Judge Caldwell.
Is that right? Okay. Just making sure I'm clear.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chairman Caldwell.
Senator, and I've read, of course, your bill several times. Of course, it's about the second or third time I think
Yes,
we've
sir.
had a hearing on this, and you and I have had discussions as well. And I have had discussions, of course, with legislative counsel on our side. And she and I are of the same agreement, I guess I would say, is that we don't think that the definition of trailer needs to be changed. And for that reason, we have drawn this new sub in that we have left it pursuant to what the code presently says. And of course, the current definition, which I've got, have you got this?
No, I do not. No, sir.
I've got one. Crick, you want to hand this to him? Of course, says that trailer means every vehicle with or without motive power other than a pole trailer designed for carrying persons or property and for being drawn by a motor vehicle and so constructed so that no part of its weight rests upon the towing vehicle. I'm concerned that if we change that definition, that we may be opening up a new can of worms we don't need to get into at this time. And what I would suggest is that we leave the current definition for trailer as it is in the sub that we have drawn.
Can you, where is, what code section and all of that on this definition of trailer? I know it's paragraph 68.
It's, look at 40-11.
So it's 40-11.
And it's where this comes from as far as the definition of a trailer. And I think that we ought to leave it as it is. And I have discussed this with the chairman, try to get this bill passed if we can, and then possibly have some discussion over it this summer as to what needs to be done. This whole code section is a mess, if you want to know the truth about it. When you read all of it concerning abandoned vehicles, where you're talking about trailers, you're talking about automotive vehicles themselves that are self-propelled. And I think that we need to have just a lot more work on it. if that makes any sense to you. And I would suggest that we just leave trailer as it is in the current code and try to move forward from there. And I think we're trying to help you is what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir. I understand. I'm sorry. I was trying to pull up the
Now, what's the exact?
40-1-1.
40-1,
1-1.
1-1.
40-1-1. So it's not specifically in 40-11.
I'm sorry, I gave it the wrong, I was looking at the wrong section.
I guess and I respect your knowledge of the law completely, Judge. And I would just reiterate the issue that has been brought up numerous times, and it's unfortunate. And I'd be willing to, I think if we and I'd be willing to continue the conversation, or be willing to just move this definition under this code section. And I agree with you. I agree, and I'm not a lawyer, that it is clear. The issue that we have is we have magistrate judges in this state that says that it's not clear. How do we fix that? I don't know how you fix that, other than trying to clarify it in the law that this is what that means. Whenever we submit something through the court process and court proceedings process, you hope and you expect that it's done by the letter of the law. Unfortunately, that's not happened in some cases, and they've determined that because of in their view, it's not clear. I guess because it's not specifically listed in 40-11. I don't, and that's what the way we tried to address it, and that's the reason we included a definition in 40-11. Even though there is a definition in 40-1 where the other definitions lie. That's the issue that our folks are facing. I agree that it's a misrepresentation and a misunderstanding on behalf of some of the courts in our state. That's the unfortunate part about it. So at the end of the day, it's just a matter of trying to clarify that for the court system to make sure that they understand that that's legislative intent. So that's the whole purpose of where I'm coming from, and the whole purpose of trying to clarify it in the law. I'm just laying my case out
I
there.
understand,
That's all
but
it is.
We're also trying to help you streamline the process as well.
Yep.
Of course, what your bill is originally intent is to streamline the process, and I guess we're now having I'm not going to use the term of disagreement, but different thoughts on how a
Yes,
trailer
sir.
should be defined. And I'm just of the opinion we should not at this time, in this bill, change that definition. That's a definition we've had for some period of time.
Yes, sir.
And in my opinion, I think we ought to leave it as it is. Use the substitute, trying to clarify what can be done to move the process along, because you got more abandoned vehicles than you got trailers. As far as automotive type situation, you got junk cars more than you got trailers on the side of the road.
Just out of curiosity, and I'm just going to ask this question, Judge. Because we have done this in other places in the code, just to make sure that it's there. And I don't know. I'm just throwing this out for conversation. Instead of changing the definition, I think the current definition meets that. Would you be open to just replacing the definition that's in 40-11 with the definition that's 40-1? All it is repetitive, and it puts it in that specific code section. So when it's pulled up, then it's obvious that that's what that means. So it's referencing the same definition that's in 40-1. Does that make sense?
Well, that makes sense. I would, at the same time, would want then to discuss that with legislative counsel to
Okay.
make sure that she and I and everybody else is on the same page.
Understood.
I'm not disagreeing with it. I just think that we would need to plug it in and see where it then fits and does it make sense. You know?
Okay.
You and I talking it does.
Yes, sir.
But let's plug it into actual words and see what it looks like. I think what we would have to do.
Understood.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Cole. Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the concern I had at first with your original bill was the 3 days, and I see where the substituted has changed back to the current law, which I believe is 5 days.
Or where is that?
On the
24
substitute, that would be line 22 and 23.
So, so we didn't deal with, which I don't believe that was changed in the original bill. I'd have to go back to it.
No, you originally had 3 days.
No, ma'am, in the original bill, it was 5 days also, in that
Okay.
particular provision.
For line 29 that I'm looking at, it says 3 days.
It's a different bill than I have. I'd have to see the version you're looking at. But regardless,
It's 5 days.
this is what we're at right now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Representative Stover, you have one? I guess, Judge. Is that it? Is that all the questions from the committee? For those that were just kind of late entering, you have before you two forms of substitute, one containing the term trailer and trying to form a definitive definition for trailer, which is 1951 TS LC 39, LC 39 1950 S. The term trailers was left out. After conferring with Legislative Council and Chairman Caldwell, it was just the feeling that the existing definition in code was sufficient in dealing and defining the terminology for trailer. So that's the reason we have the two before you. Just trying to make a clarification of that. Any other questions? All right. What's the will of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept LC 39-1950S as a substitute for this bill and move it forward at this time. And I make that motion.
Have a motion, we have a second? Have a motion to second. Is that a question on that?
Second.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, all in favor of the motion and the second as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, sign. Motion carries. So LC 39-1950S has been successfully passed by this committee and will be clear to go to rules, sir.
All right. I'll go visit the good rules chairman now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, committee. Let me make sure that, that you notify my administrative assistant, of any mileage you might have incurred in coming in for today's meeting if you, drove from home up, so we can get a roster into fiscal office on attendees and their mileage on this. With that being said, we're adjourned. Thank you for coming.